Let's crack open a beer and share some thoughts.
Welcome to Hopinions, and this is a bit of a first for us because we're recording on a bank holiday Monday during the day. Not that any of that means anything anymore.
Yeah, what's a bank holiday?
Exactly. There's no, I've no idea. It's feels like every day is a bank holiday at the moment.
I think for some people, it probably does feel like that. I mean, obviously, I've still got work, but I know for you, I can't imagine bank holiday Friday, bank holiday Monday. They all end in the work.
All just rolled into one, mate.
They're just day.
Yeah, it's all just rolled into one. But I've got a bit of light respite anyway because I do have a fantastic beer in glass, as I know you do. This week we're drinking some beers from the Cheshire Brewhouse, which once again the owner Shane Swindells has been very, very kind in sending the both of us a care package.
Yeah, thank you, Shane.
And we have been thoroughly enjoying trying those ahead of actually recording the show with the beers that we really wanted to showcase from the selection that he sent us.
Yeah, so, hashtag research.
Yes, we are nothing if but thorough. What are you drinking, mate, from the selection that Shane sent over to us?
This is one of the ones I haven't sampled so far. Cheshire Gap. It's a pale ale. Comes in at 3.8%. And a bit like some of the other beers which he's recently gone into cans, although they've got quite a traditional feel to them, they really do come across as like a quality cask beer packaged in a 440 milliliter can. And this pale ale is no exception, to be honest. It's actually superbly drinkable and very sessionable, very light, fruity, soft mouthfeel. Carbonation is, I had to admit, the carbonation all the cans I've had from him so far, including the Gibraltar Porter, which I think may or may not get a mention later on in the show, they've just been really good. And the artwork on the cans, I think, have been stunning as well.
Yeah, they really stand out, don't they?
Yeah, I think it's really good. And he just seems to be churning out new ones, even since this care package has arrived as well. There's another 2 or 3 releases coming up by the looks of it. So he's definitely keeping busy.
I was going to say, I'm guessing he's got nothing but time on his hands at the moment. So
that's probably it, because the tap room ain't going to be running, is it? So no. he definitely has more time on his hands.
Keep the beer moving through the system.
Exactly. And what have you got?
I have got the DBA, which is a Burton-style pale ale, coming in at 4.6%. This is the second time I've had this, and it is absolutely delicious. It is straight away up front. It's got a really creamy mouthfeel. There's lots of caramel and like malty biscuit in there, which then gives way to just like a little bit of almost like a spicy rye sort of note to it in the middle before coming in on a really, really clean, bitter finish. And it's just an absolute delight to drink. And I think picking up on one of the points that you said about these canned beers is they do taste like cask beer in a can.
Yeah, and it's probably the closest I've had for canned beers that are, I can close my eyes and I can picture that I'm drinking the same beer in a nice pub, in a beer garden, and it feels like a cask beer straight away. I don't have to use my imagination very much. It is literally just transferring myself to a pub. And I've been massively impressed, I have to admit. I've been massively impressed.
Yeah, same here. And once again, we are really grateful to Shane for sending those over to us. Now, he did also send a note on Twitter at the weekend when I tried this particular beer for the first time. And he was talking about the style of it being a Burton style pale ale. And basically what he was saying was a true Burton ale is barley wine like Bass Number 1. That beer is our homage to Indcoop's Burton Ale, which many say is actually an IPA. He was just starting his beer drinking journey when this beer was originally released. And it was a great Burton bitters like Pedigree and Bass. And that's what he's aimed for, is kind of those traditional style beers with this. And I think he's absolutely nailed it.
I do. I think there's 2 words which are really telling in that note from Shane, which you left off. And we finished off that sentence by saying once were.
Once were, sorry, yeah.
And I think that's probably where I'm really enjoying the beers that Shane does, and equally Steve from Beer Nouveau as well. Is that they're trying to recreate what some beers once were, not just. I mean, because Pedigree and Bass you can still get now.
Yeah, but they're a shadow of their former selves.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, they're doing a stunning job. I mean, so, I've waxed lyrical more than once about my love for the Govinda Chevalier edition. And incidentally, I think Shane sort of teased he might be putting that in cans soon as well, the Govinda.
He did, and he did also mention actually that in this in the DBA he's actually used some of the Chevalier malt as well in this, so it gives it kind of that feel.
That could be one of the reasons why we've both really enjoyed it then.
I reckon so.
Because we both enjoyed the Govinda, for sure.
Yes, yeah. And I for one will be looking forward to seeing if that does come in cans, because I think I'll probably do what you did on that particular evening and just buy a whole case of them.
It went down really well at the work beer tasting as well.
There
wasn't any of those left over, so they did go down really well across a wide section of people. So yeah, no.
I think it's just because it's such a different beer. It's like nothing that a lot of people would have experienced before.
Definitely. So yeah, it'd be interesting if it tastes the same as it did before and what it's like in cans. And we've both got a second beer from Cheshire coming up, so we'll see what those are like.
We will. So while we're working our way through the first beer, we do have a little bit of news this week, a few things that we just wanted to touch on. So first up is this fantastic scheme that's been put together by a number of independent breweries from all over the UK, which is called Buy the NHS a Pint. Now, I think I'm right in saying that this actually originated possibly at Gypsy Hill. I think they were the first ones that did this, and it's basically expanded from there. And basically, the concept is that while you're ordering a selection of beers from certain breweries, you can buy the NHS a pint by selecting that option in their shop, paying a £5, and then what they're going to do is they're going to pay that forward in the future. So they'll have evenings at their tap rooms that will allow NHS staff or registered volunteers to come into their bars and essentially have a drink on people that are buying beer. So the breweries involved are Duration, Fine Ales, Wylam, Cloudwater, North, Verdant and Left-Handed Giant, Daya, Gypsy Hill and Boundary in Northern Ireland as well. And I think that's just a great little scheme that they've come up with.
Yeah, it's a wide cross section as well, because I think I read a bit about this myself via the Guild daily update, the Guild of British Beer Writers, and they noted like with Duration were going to allow it to be paid forward to a couple of venues in their area because of where they are, so that they could maximise their bit of like Norfolk and Suffolk, so to speak, so that the more people can get to those places to have it. I think it's a wonderful idea, and not sure which one I'll be ordering from next, but if whoever I order from, if that's on there, then yeah, why not?
Absolutely.
It's roughly the standard delivery charge, isn't it? I mean,
it's great
when
idea.
All said and done.
Yeah, great concept. So, and again, just encourage our listeners, if you're buying from any of those breweries, make sure you buy the NHS a pint before you check out as well.
It's a cracking idea.
Next up on the news, and again in terms of some great practice that we're seeing at the moment, comes from Brewdog. Now, I am normally the first person to have a go at Brewdog for the things I do, but
yes, you are.
I think their behaviour during this lockdown period has been absolutely exemplar in terms of the things they're doing. So just a few of the things that they're doing. So both James Watt and Martin Dickey have said that they're taking no salary from the business for the rest of 2020. A lot of senior management and directors have also taken a pay cut as well. I believe they've essentially furloughed all of their staff that work in their bars, and they've also sent out to every one of those staff, over 900 of them, over 900 cases of beer to their staff as well as a gift. On top of that, they're obviously doing the great work with the hand sanitizer as well. And I think credit where it's due. They are absolutely a shining light of best practice in this situation that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, I think that, like you say, credit where credit's due. If a company takes the heat when they're being a bit shit, then equally when they're not, they should also get the credit for that. And I think they've done really well. I've been amazed at the amount of people who still want to jump on it, regardless of what they're doing, with publicity and stuff like that. But basically, anyone who's doing anything good, as I said before, tell me about it, because I need good news in my life. Bit like we were talking about the Buy the NHS a Pint scheme. Look, keep on feeding me the good news. This is what I need in my life. I don't have to go very far to see bad news or hear about bad news. So the more good news I see, the better balanced my life is.
Okay, so that's the news, and it's great to have, like you say, it's great to have that good news at the moment. It's great to hear these little bits of things that breweries and bottle shops and everybody's getting involved in. Obviously, we're still stuck at home, so we've not been able to go out anywhere and have our beery adventures. But what have you been up to since last week, mate? Any standouts beer wise?
Well, I mean, I've had a couple of virtual nights out. One of them being with your good self when we had the bottle share.
Yeah.
A week ago. That was good fun. I think we had 10 of us on there at one point, around about the half 9, 10 o'clock mark. And using Zoom, it worked really well, I thought. Everyone got into the swing of it. I mean, I dropped out about 10:30 because everyone else in the house was going to bed. So I had to quieten it down a little bit. But I think you went on to 11:30, but I think the share went on till about 12:30, didn't it?
Yeah, it was possibly one of the latest shares ever. But yeah, like I say, I dropped out about an hour after you. But I think there was still a hardcore that carried on going until the early hours. But no, it was great, and it was a great use of the technology that's available at the moment. Like you say, 10 of us got together, we had a few beers. It was great that we had managed to somehow synchronize it so that we all at one point we were all drinking the same beer as well.
The Thornbridge Pondera.
Yeah,
as it happens,
and I don't think that's going to be the last time that beer is going to get mentioned tonight either. No. But no, it was great to be part of that, and I think for the foreseeable future, that's going to be how our bottle share runs, isn't it?
Oh, I can't see it changing for at least the next one anyway. I mean, after that, who knows? But yeah, it was great fun to do that. And then, ironically, the night after that is when I did my recording with Owen Walsh for Cabin Fever. I think a couple of nights before you did yours. So I actually got told off for having 2 nights out. I was like, I'm not out. Although you could argue the Tuesday did go on longer than normal because I didn't have to worry about getting a bus and a taxi or a train and a taxi.
One benefit of doing it online, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, to mention the Pondera again, I bought a second case of that anyway. So I'm still working my way through the Thornbridge Pondera. And my love for the California sun is only increasing as well, especially the good weather we had for the bulk of the Easter weekend. The California sun, I was just crushing those. I have to admit, it was just so well balanced. It's in a California sun, a Jaipur and a Pondera is becoming quite a new little trinity of beers for me.
I'm surprised we haven't seen that California sun in the supermarket yet. I really am. Because like you say, at the ABV, the sessionability that it's at, that would almost make a perfect beer for a supermarket shelf.
Yeah, and I'm sure it will hit there at some point. They probably just need to sort out the shelf space or whether they drop one of the other beers, but who knows? It works really well. It's sessionable, beautifully balanced, and I've got, I think, another 4 or 5 in the cupboard, so they'll last a limited amount of time. Drinking fresh. I don't want those hops to fade after all. Had an online delivery from the Colonel after you told me on the last show that Colonel were doing online deliveries.
How many minutes after we finished recording our show did it take you to order that box?
Well, probably took a little bit longer than expected, but not that long after I told Michelle.
Yeah.
She was fairly keen on that. So we went for the variety box. So that's 24 beers. Came in at just over 70 quid. So they had a discount, then plus delivery charge. So sort of netted itself out. 24 bottles of 330, some Saisons, Damson and Citra, some India Pale Ales, some Pale Ales, table beer, brown ale, and some dark beers. So I'm quite happy with the full gambit from Colonel anyway. The beer de Saison Citra probably would have suited you more than me. It was definitely fruity, but perhaps just not quite funky enough for what I was expecting. So I think that actually needs a little bit more time. And there was two of those, so it was quite nice. I've had one fresh, and then the other one is I've pushed back in the cupboard a bit. But the Pale Ale Columbus and the India Pale Ale Nelson Savon HBC 431 were both absolutely fantastic. Again, you could picture having that on tap in somewhere like the Craft Beer Co in London, and you would have been more than happy with it. Had those little bit of earthy notes that you often get with a Colonel beer, and gives you that sort of like slightly rough edge to it. But both of them, the fruit and the balance and the finish, both came through really nicely. I want unmistakably Colonel beers. And then my last couple of ones I want to note, I returned to a classic beer that I return to every now and again, and then always wonder why I haven't got more of it. I saw it and I thought, what? Okay, just take some. Why wouldn't I? I know, and it just never lets me down.
It's
it never lets me down.
It's so good. Yeah.
I was chatting to Clayton on the phone this morning. We got onto subject of beer and stuff, and we both agreed if you compare that, say, to maybe one of its contemporaries, like, I don't know, Lagunitas, the original Lagunitas, that beer is not the same as it once was, and is not as good as it once was. As far as I'm concerned, the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is exactly as good as it was before, and continues to be a very smashable, drinkable beer. But so much flavour and balance. Just a little change of tact. Cantillon Rosé de Gambrinus, 2018-19 season. Me and Michelle shared a bottle of that on Saturday. Lovely weather outside, perfect beer, nice and fruity. My own personal feeling about this particular Cantillon beer is this is one to drink fresh rather than to age. So you get all those fruity notes coming through rather than the more lambic side of it coming through.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned that before.
Yeah, that's definitely. I think some of the other ones, especially like the pure lambic, the lambic bio, those kind of ones, they sort of mellow and mature, I think, really well. I think the rosé, the fruit notes start to disappear, and that I think that's what is so good about it is the fruity notes. So yeah, I would say if you've got one in your cellar, Steve, to have it, but I don't know if you do have any Cantillon in your cellar.
I can be very definite in saying there are no Cantillon beers in my cellar.
And that's it. I mean, while I've been doing it, I've still managed to finish off my Cheshire Gap Pale Ale at the same time.
Yeah, I've been sitting here just supping away at the DBA, and that's gone as well. Final thoughts on yours?
Well, the men behaving badly, boys, would love the lacing on the inside of my glass right now. I can tell you that much. But yeah, it just carried on all the way through. And actually, what started to come towards the end of it was the dry, bitter finish came through. Really, really enjoyable. I have got another one in the fridge, which I'll see if Michelle wants to share. And currently my fingers are crossed that she doesn't.
It's one of those, is it?
It's one of those. I actually don't want to share. I'd quite happily just sink another one right now if it wasn't for the fact I've got another one to open. But before I share what I've got left to open, any final thoughts from yourself on your DBA?
No, it's just it's a really, really delicious beer. It's one that I'd really love to try on cask. I think it would absolutely shine. But I think Shane has gone as far as you possibly can in terms of recreating cask beer in a can. And
eagle-eared listeners may have heard you crack open another one already.
I did, yeah. I'm moving on to, again, from Cheshire Brewhouse, Blues Breaker, which is an American Pale Ale. 4.8%. Interesting that I've opened this just as you mentioned about Sierra Nevada, because I'm going to hold my beer up. You obviously listeners won't be able to see this, but it actually has poured exactly like a Sierra Nevada would look.
Yes, it does. It does definitely look the same, doesn't it? Actually, that was my pre-recording beer, so it'd be interesting to hear what you say about that. I'm following up with another one from Cheshire Brewhouse myself, and this is the Lindow, the Black Lake Cheshire Stout.
Oh, so I had that at the weekend.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to this because, again, based on the darker beers that we've had from Shane and based on, the aforementioned Gibraltar Porter, I'm pretty confident I'm going to like this one.
Yeah, I think you will. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had a bit of a drinking day on Saturday with Em. We had a bit of a virtual drink together using the
Wasn't
magic
it
of FaceTime.
a date afternoon / evening / night?
Very much so. Yeah, I drank a lot on Saturday.
Any
Uh,
standouts from that selection?
I had a couple of Ponderas in there. They're always gonna stand out in a crowd. I had a good few of Shane's beers as well that I tried. I enjoyed all of those. I didn't have a bad beer, put it that way. Did get to a point where I felt as though I needed gin and had 3 gins. And then after the gin, I then thought I need another beer, so I went for a Colonel. I had a Imperial Brown Stout 1856 as my last beer of that Saturday session, and it was absolutely delicious. It was smooth and kind of creamy, nutty, malty. Some really nice roasted notes on the finish. It was absolutely perfect, but it completely finished me off. And M will testify to the fact that I fell asleep on the sofa while on FaceTime to her.
Oh, that's brilliant! I wish I had a picture of that.
So yeah, had a pretty good day actually. Did enjoy that one.
And other than Saturday, what other sort of standouts have you had?
Well, I like yourself. I appeared on Cabin Fever on with Owen. I think it was the episode after the one that you was on.
Yeah.
So I was on with Johnny from the Craft Beer Channel and Lana from a brewery in Ukraine. And it was quite nice just to have a chat with some people about how we're all dealing with this thing. And while I recorded that, I went for basically what's become a bit of a staple, the Bitburger Sierra Nevada triple hopped lager collab, which I think I've only got one left of.
Well, I'm worse off than you are.
Are you done?
I'm done. They're so excellent, but I probably shouldn't say any more as tonight's theme for opinions anyway that may get mentioned later.
Yeah, just hold that one there. Let's dive into these beers. And anyway, let's not leave them sitting into the glass for too much longer. Cheers, mate.
Oh, straight away, this stout has got sort of just a little bit of hint of smoke and ash in the aroma and the flavour. It's very light body. Again, great carbonation. And just a slight dryness at the end, but that sort of dryness which just makes you want to refresh straight away.
Yeah,
with it. I'm looking forward to getting my way through this one.
So drinkable. That is so drinkable. The Blues Breaker, the American Pale Ale, loads of bitterness straight away up front, which is lovely. Exactly what I want in this sort of style of beer. Really kind of light, grassy, almost floral-like. Little bit of citrus notes going on in there, and then there's that bitterness back at the end, which is, again, for the style, that's what you want. I want an American Pale Ale to be bitter from beginning to end, because that's what I expect from the style.
Yeah, I'd say it's a very a very English take on an American Pale Ale style, because the fruity element of the beer comes later on, not straight away. If we can compare it to the beer we were just speaking about, the Sierra Nevada, then I don't think they're side by side. You can tell they're very different beers, but there's definitely the American Pale Ale has taken its nod from our Pale Ales of years gone by, and the Cheshire Brewhouse has gone to the years gone by as well. But they're both very, very good beers.
Yeah.
So I said the Blues Breaker was my warm up beer earlier. Because I need a warm up beer on a bank holiday Monday afternoon.
Again, what's a bank holiday, mate? I've no idea. We keep mentioning this word, but I don't know. It doesn't compute anymore.
Everything's airport drinking rules.
Yes, yeah, completely. Well, while we're enjoying these, let's get into this week's question.
Opinions, 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 opinions.
So we're about a quarter of the way through the year, and we thought we'd ask if there were any Beer of the Year contenders yet from our listeners. So we had 191 votes. 52.9% of people said yes. 47.1 said no, which is interesting that almost half of those who voted haven't had a beer this year that they would consider to be good enough for their Beer of the Year. We had over 70 different beers mentioned, but there were 3 that came out above all others that kind of kept getting mentioned again and again and again. So they were Siren and J. Wakefield's Dark and Perilous Nights, which is a barrel-aged dark ale, I believe. The Cheshire Brewhouse Gibraltar Porter, which I think is no surprise coming from our listeners that maybe they would have heard us drinking it with Nat and gone, I need that.
Yeah.
And then Siren again with Green Cheek, Every Minute Matters, which I believe was an IPA. So it's quite interesting in terms of there were already 3 beers that from all those mentioned had multiple suggestions for them.
Well, out of those 3, I mean, I'm pretty certain we've only tasted the Gibraltar Porter. Interested to see that 2 collaborations by Siren are in there, so that's really good news for Siren.
Absolutely,
they're still cracking out these beers that people really want to have and really rate as well. But yeah, I mean, the Gibraltar Porter is on my shortlist already because I was just blown away when we did the show with Nat, because it was just fabulous. And what is it, 8% plus?
Something like that, yeah. Doesn't drink it.
No, and it's just superbly balanced. Lovely chocolate roasty notes. It's still got quite a decent mouthfeel, but it hasn't got one of those, viscous wine-like thick mouthfeels. It just fits in all really nicely. So yeah, that Gibraltar Porter is definitely on my list. I have to admit, the Every Minute Matters, I wouldn't have minded trying that one either.
No, well, I've managed to get hold of a bottle of the Dark and Perilous Nights. Because I know that Two Brew had it in, so I did just message Paul and say, "Can you put one aside?" And then they did actually. They were doing some deliveries over this way on Saturday, so I managed to get a few beers delivered from Two Brew as well. And I managed so I've got that in my cupboard, but I'm not quite sure when I'm going to drink it. So I might reserve opinion on that. But I've heard so many people talk such good things about it that I couldn't let it almost slip through my fingers.
Do you think you've been getting FOMO more while we've been on lockdown?
No, I think one, because I don't think there's the number of releases coming out. I think the releases have slowed down. I don't know whether it's FOMO or maybe that there were a few beers that I passed up before lockdown that I wish I hadn't, that I've then gone back and sourced. So yeah. I did have an opportunity to pick up that Dark and Perilous Nights before from Two Brew, and I let it go because of the price point on it, and also at the same time I also let go the collab between Emperors and Ampersand, the Mockalorian, which was recently featured on Men Behaving Badly. And after listening to them talk about it, I needed that as well. So luckily Paul still had some of them in. So I think I've been quite fortunate in the beers that I let go. I've been able to actually go back and source from the shop that I know and trust.
Oh, that's quite handy, isn't it? Because, they've been looked after as well.
Yeah. Okay, so while we're there, why don't we talk about our beers so far of the year? Because I think we've mentioned there might be a couple. Do you want to go first in terms of there have been any real standouts for you? I think maybe you've already mentioned 2 of yours.
Yeah, we've mentioned a few. We've mentioned from Thornbridge and the triple hop lager from Bitburger. I had some at the quite early on in the year. I think the first one which stood out for me was that one from Torside we had in the first week of January, the one-way ticket to Pluto.
Oh, the West Coast IPA.
Yeah, which was just really nice. 6.8%, tasted really, really good. And then a couple of beers that I tried as part of the tasting show that I did with Men Behaving Badly and Beers Without Frontiers. The bourbon barrel aged kitchen sink from Green Duck Beer Co. An Imperial Milk Stout, 10%. And also from Round Corner, who I think we've mentioned once or twice on the show, having met the guys at the Brew London Society for the Encouragement of Virtue. Guess what? A Russian Imperial Stout. bit of a theme developing here. But also the Keller Lager from Braybrook would definitely is in my shortlist. I'm probably at that stage where I've got a short list, but I probably wouldn't be able to dig one out. I mean, a couple of those IPAs we referred to when we did the Budvar show are definitely in my short list as well, because they were just bang on point for me, tasting really good. So if I look at my BOTY 2020 Untapped list, there are currently 15 beers in that list.
Wow, that's a lot of beers.
I know, which means if it carries on at that rate, there's going to have to be some filtering by the time we come to record in late November, early December.
Yeah, for sure. I've only got 5 so far, but I do have a spreadsheet, which will probably come as no surprise to anyone. After last year's convoluted process of identifying what my beer of the year was, and then choosing one that didn't even match any of the criteria that I had aforementioned, this year I thought I'd have a spreadsheet. So, and the spreadsheet has a scoring system as well, which is based on a number of criteria that will then give me an overall score. So therefore, that beer with the highest score should be the beer of the year.
Can't it just be a beer you really like?
Well, it's possibly going to be one and the same.
Okay. So are you going to share your scoring criteria, or are you going to hold that back for another day?
I will share the different categories, but I won't share how each category is scored for now. So the beers are scored on pintability. Are they on style? Is there like an environment bonus? So was the time and the place, did that elevate how good that beer was? I've then got a FOMO index as well. So the more hyped the beer is, the lower the score it will get in that category as well. Availability, and then how many times I've drunk that particular beer. So those are the different criteria. The 5 beers currently on my list also represent kind of a bit of a range of styles as well. So one of them is a black IPA from the Colonel, which I had at the Colonel Taproom when I visited there earlier on in the year. There's the barley wine from Cloudwater, the IB who I discovered that beer randomly in a bottle shop and bought it, and it was amazing. So then I had to buy another one to age a little bit. Burning Skies Out of Vogue, their West Coast Pale Ale that they released recently, which I thought was cracking. Whiplash Fatal Deviation, which is an Imperial Stout. And then the last one is, again, the aforementioned Thornbridge Pondera, which I think in terms of West Coast IPA is an absolute stunning example of that style.
Yeah, well, I think it's a pretty good list. I mean, I'm not sure. I think you need to be in lockdown for the whole year if you're going to be able to maintain this spreadsheet with all the criteria you've got in it. But yeah, I think it's. I'm quite surprised, but I've got more beers in my list than you have, to be honest.
Yeah, well, mine have literally of. It's you kind of know when you have a beer that you're like, wow, that's really good. And that's a beer that I will consider as being the best beer that I've drunk this year.
I'm surprised a couple of the IPAs from the Czech Republic haven't made it in there.
I think maybe possibly a beer haze going on there in terms of or palate fatigue at the time of just having had too many beers.
Well, let's not get carried away. Not too many beers. Let's just say a lot.
A lot of beers, yeah. Let's dive into some of the suggestions that people on Twitter made. So first up from Greg Bullman at Greg Bullman, Siren, Dark and Perilous Nights, unbelievable, 12.4% Imperial Dark Ale. Thornbridge Pondere will probably be my supermarket beer of the year. Now, I thought that was an interesting comment because I don't class it as a supermarket beer because I can't get it in Morrison's. I know it is available in Morrison's.
So it does get maybe it'll get wider release still. Who knows? It does definitely qualifies as a supermarket beer of the year, I would say. So following up on that one, Andy Parker, I think Siren, Dark and Perilous Nights is possibly their best ever barrel release. Also love the Cloudwater English Barley Wine, which I presume is the one you referred to because he's gone in brackets. Can't remember if it had a name.
Yes, yeah. No, I reckon that would be the same one.
Now, you see, if Andy Park, now with both you and Andy Parker saying how good or the possibility of how good the Dark and Perilous Nights is, I have to admit, I'm curious myself now because I mean, especially from Andy, that's quite a recommendation because he's pretty well versed on the siren output over the years, isn't he?
Yeah. Carrying on that theme from Joe Cruikshank at AB Bridge Joe. Dark and Perilous Nights from Siren and Jay Wakefield was sublime, incredibly complex with lots of barrel character, tasted somewhat like a Pedro Jimenez.
From the Manchi at the Pieman 7, I had Braybrook Keller Pills the other night, which is the best thing I've drunk this year. That one's also on my list, actually. That is on my short list, the Braybrook Keller Pills. I'm pretty certain, I'm sure I'll get corrected, but I'm pretty certain it was the Keller that featured in the crossover episode with Men Behaving Badly and Beers Without Frontiers. And to be everything lager based that I've had from Braybrook, I can understand why people rave about them. They do know how to do a lager.
Yeah. I think I might have to hunt that one down again.
From Ronnie Bean at Ronnie Bean, with a memory prompt from Untapped. Good man. I see that I thought very highly of Fine Ale's Black Forest Mills and Hills Imperial Stout. There's a few big beers getting a mention here, isn't there?
Isn't there just following that one up? Miles Lambert, massive fan of Marble's barley wine this year. That's an early shout for a big barley wine.
Exactly. Is that the same barley wine that we had on the crawl? On the Quimbo crawl?
Possibly, which we did think was a bit young, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I mean, it was nice.
Tasted.
It was nice, but maybe young. But you could definitely, you could almost picture where it might go.
Yes.
From Alistair Reese at Fuggled, almost forgot the Bitburger collaboration with Sierra Nevada, glorious lager. No arguments from us.
Can't disagree with that one at all. From Mark Johnson at Mark N. Johnson, Track Sonoma is just edging its yearly battle with Fine Jarl on the basis that I haven't had any Jarl yet, but man, Sonoma is good.
Cheshire Brewhouse Gibraltar Porter is far way ahead of everything else so far, and that's from Paulie G at Can I Get a P? And then following up on that, beer of the year thus far is Cheshire Brewhouse Gibraltar Porter. It took a while to get some, but more than worth the wait. What a banger. And that's from Rich Swindells. And that's also, I think that's Shane's brother, isn't it?
It is, yeah. He was quite upset that Shane sent us some before he sent him some.
I still think that's hilarious.
Yeah. But it's great, isn't it, that we've already got quite a range of beers, some real standouts that have been released so far, only sort of like 3-4 months into the year so far. And it'll be interesting to see what starts to happen over the coming months, and also whether any of that is impacted on by the situation that we find ourselves in terms of breweries simply aren't brewing at the level that they were expecting to be brewing at. Yeah,
possibly. And also the fact that everyone's brewing at the moment is going into what we would class as small pack, but at the moment it's their only pack. It's bottles or cans generally.
Yeah. Well, there's a few doing. I've seen a few doing bag in a box of like cask beers.
Yeah, I've seen a few do that as well, especially the traditional ones who haven't necessarily got access straight away to their maybe canning or things like that. But yeah, if you take away that, I think it's going to be quite hard to judge this year, because I think there's going to be a lot of good stuff that people have tried more often at home, because we're doing all of our drinking at home for a period of time.
Yeah. Well, again, we're all getting to try stuff, and as a result, some people are digging into their stash, into beers that they maybe would have saved for another day. So it will be interesting to see where things go. I mean, what we've just gone through there is just a small snapshot of the comments. As always, there's a link in the show notes to the question. Click through to that. You can have a look at all the answers. Use the hashtag opinions, and your comment may get read out in this next part of the show.
Let us know. Write it down. Let us know. Write it down. Let us know your thoughts and bitter and lingerness. Write it down.
So first up from Johnny Beerboy at Johnny Beerboy. Cheers for the pod, lads. I think corkage fee is definitely an interesting topic for an entire pod. Never understood it myself, so be interested to hear maybe from some bars that have it in place. Also, I really like the Seven Brothers new branding. Cool retro.
From Richard Taylor at Rich Taylor 1608. Good show, guys. Hope you're both doing well in these times of uncertainty. My first thoughts were Peg and Frost, but then thought Aykroyd and Belushi just without the singing. So this is Hopinions, the movie, who would play Steve and myself. And Peg and Frost was my immediate one. I quite like the Aykroyd and Belushi one as well.
That works.
Bit harsh. I don't think Rich has ever heard us sing, to be honest. And it's not. It's not like Aykroyd and Belushi were the world's best singers either.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I'd keep those comments, keep those suggestions coming in as well on who should play us in Opinions the movie. From Row Optimus at Row Optimus, nice last episode. Hadn't seen anything past the original Avengers before the lockdown. Is this the right order? And then he was asking what order to do it in, which was obviously going back to the poll that we ran. And I'm still going through at the moment in order of release. I'm currently up. My next film is Doctor Strange, so I'm in a really good run of films now, heading into to Endgame and Infinity War.
Oh, you're in a cracking run, and yes, it's in order of release.
Every time, yeah.
Yeah. From Simon Clark at Simon Carbon, catching up the backlog of Beery podcasts. Beer O'Clock Show Budvar special. Great content, guys. Now I need to find a Budvar Dark, because I don't think I've had one before. Doesn't seem to be readily available in supermarkets, though. Now, I saw this tweet from Simon, and I think you put him in touch. You mentioned Josh on the tweet. I think Simon from Budvar also came back, and they are trying really hard, even in this particular climate, to try and get a few more outlets for the Budvar Dark.
It sounds like they're trying their hardest to bring it over here, which would be great to see. But thanks for that comment, Simon. We were unsure as to how that Budvar show would work with the segues and the recorded content, but I'm glad to see that people seem to be enjoying it. Yeah,
and so far so good. And I mentioned it on the Cabin Fever podcast with Owen. It feels like an age ago, and it was only 2 months.
It's a lifetime ago now. It's an absolute lifetime ago. Last one from Lee Houghton at the Links Gent. Thought you'd like this picture of Taras Bulba. Tonight while we're on lockdown. Better to be safe than sorry. You never know. I might just get the urge to drop a cask on someone's head.
That did make me chuckle.
Final thoughts on the two beers that we're drinking. So I'm going to jump in first this time. Blues Breaker American Pale Ale from Cheshire Brewhouse is delicious until the last drop. It really is. It's hitting the spot for me. It's got that lovely bitterness. Again, though, it's got a really soft mouthfeel, and it's just what Shane is doing with these beers is incredible. In terms of how he's making them taste coming out of the can, that they taste like canned cask beer.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. I mean, this stout, which I've basically finished now, 4.5%. It's got whole flower hops as well. It's natural, unfiltered, unpasteurized. Yeah, I've got nothing to add about the stout than what I said earlier on in the show, and just really enjoying it. And like I said, I will quickly say to Michelle, really quickly, really quietly, does she want any of the Cheshire Gap? And hope she says no.
I don't blame you, mate. But we are really grateful to Shane once again for sending us through the beers. I know it's a tough time for breweries, and for him to be willing to send us both a care package of a good number of his beers. We're so grateful for that, and they are very delicious beers. So if you do like what you've heard, hit Shane up and see how you can get hold of his beers.
Definitely.
Now, we'll be back next week. I'm going off to enjoy the rest of this bank holiday thing that people keep saying is today. I'm probably going to have a few more beers today. Any other plans for today, mate?
I haven't got any plans. I'm going to watch a bit more TV, I think. I'll see if I can get Michelle onto the second series of Life on Mars now.
Okay, well, enjoy that. And as I say, we will be back next week. Cheers.
Cheers.